Hello, everyone, and welcome to Crash Course World History. My name is Ryan Sadighian.
Get out of here, me from Las Vegas. My name is Ryan Sadighian, and welcome to Crash Course World History. We'll start with 8000 BCE. During this time period, people were organized into nomadic hunter-gatherer tribes. The women in this time period were highly valued for their work gathering the food. They lived in an egalitarian society. Then came along this thing called the Neolithic Revolutions between 8000 and 2000 BCE. These Neolithic revolutions led to specialization. Specialization led to inequality. The Neolithic revolutions were the shift from hunter-gathering to agriculture. You see, before specialization. Ooh, Mr. S! Yes, me from Las Vegas?
What is specialization?
Creation of specialization is the creation of jobs that do not involve food production. When women were collecting food, they were valued, but when men started to use agriculture to produce food, women were not as appreciated. In the period from 1500 BCE to 600 CE, there was a decline in the status of women. Factors such as urbanization, increasing complex political and social structures, and the emergence of a non-agricultural middle class that placed a high value on the acquisition and inheritance of property led to a loss of women's rights and an increase in the male control over women's behavior. However, there were some areas that supported women's rights. For example, Muhammad Ali in the Umayyad Caliphate strengthened women's inheritance and divorce rights. From 2000 BCE to 600 CE, women saw continuity in their lifestyles. Then, in the 7th century Han China, women hit rock bottom. They were described as a nuisance. They were often confined to their homes and hardly participated in public activities. During the rise of Islam from 600 to 1200, Islamic civilizations included women who had very few rights. Let's go to the thought bubble. Women seldom traveled, they had to be veiled in public and lived in seclusion. Many women during this time period were illiterate, however some were able to study in secret from their husbands, though barred from public roles. Though it was uncommon, there were a few women rulers that contributed to the change and development of their empires. Examples of this would be Chinese Empress Wu Zhao in 690 and Japanese Empress Tsukio in 592. Wu Zhao seized control of government, declared power to herself, ruled effectively, but eventually was dethroned and hated by traditional Japanese historians who describe all powerful women as evil. Sorry, Wu. As for Tsukio, she was very successful in the introduction of new aspects of Japanese civilization, such as the establishment of Buddhism in Japan. She left a lasting influence on Japan's government philosophy.
From 600 to 1200, Vietnam shared Confucian interests in hierarchy, but attitudes towards women, like those in Korea and Japan, differed from the Chinese model. They excluded foot binding from their societies and allowed women to assume a role in property negotiation and disposition.
In Mayan culture, women of ruling lineages played important political and religious roles. They participated in bloodletting rituals and public ceremonies to help legitimize their husband's rule. Women also held positions as healers and shamans.
It was from 1200 through 1500 that Mongol families arranged marriage alliances along with other acts that helped generate political federations. Women from prestigious families could have great power in negotiation and management, though they had risk of assassination or execution just like men. Wives and other mothers of Mongol rulers traditionally managed state affairs between a ruler's death and selection of a successor. These regents were treated with great deference and obeyed without question. Mongol women could not succeed to position of Khan, so they would often focus on gaining the succession for his son or a male relative.
From 1200 to 1500, it was seen over time that the position of Hindu women may have improved somewhat compared to earlier periods. The sati, or burning of the man's widow, for example, became optional in Hindu societies. Indian women were still arranged into their marriages and faced for stricter rules of fidelity and chastity. Though the wives were given stricter rules than their husbands, they were usually given lighter penalties in law than men. A woman's male master, which was her father, husband, or owner, determined her status. Women rarely played active roles in commerce, administration, or religion. Activities common for women included child rearing, food preparation, farm work, pottery, brewing, cloth making, weaving, and other craft work.
During the period of the Renaissance, women were burnt alive because they were convicted of witchcraft. It was said that witch hunts were connected to the social tensions of women. From 1500 to 1750, the Safavid Empire had women's quarters separate from the public rooms where men of the family received visitors. The Islamic law allowed women to retain their property after marriage. It also gave women independence from their spouses.
The French Revolution gave women struggles when trying to keep their jobs in the factories. They turned to prostitution for money. Women started to uprise against the king and the queen and forced them to relocate to Paris.
Men and women were in separate spheres. Women were supposed to be wives, mothers, and homemakers. Men were breadwinners and participants in business and politics. Let's go to the thought bubble for more on women in the Victorian age. The most important role for a woman in the Victorian era was to raise children. It was harder for the working class woman to maintain jobs in the textile industries and in domestic service while also keeping homes and raising the children. During this era, women like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton demanded and protested the right to vote for women.
At the home front during World War I and II, women had a sense of participation in war effort and taste of personal and financial independence because they had to replace the jobs of the men in the fields, factories, and offices.
The reason that women gained this increased participation at the home front was due to the fact that the men were off fighting world wars. It's time for the open letter. But first, what's in the drawer? Nothing. What's Mao Zedong doing here? Oh, wait! Mao Zedong came to power in communist China. Although he had an impulse to go to violent efforts, he supported women's equality. He gave jobs of farming to women, allowed divorce, and banned arranged marriages and foot bindings. Open letter to all women. Someone cares. Best wishes, Ryan Sadighian.
Rights of women in the 20th century became accepted in the Western countries and were incorporated in the constitutions of many nations newly freed from colonial rule. The United Nations created the first conference on the status of women that was conducted in Kenya in 1985. These conferences revealed the variety in views in the concerns of women. For example, Muslim women fought to state their beliefs about the concealing garments that they were required to wear for their religion.
Coming to you live from Las Vegas, it's Ryan Sadighian. But seriously though, it was a pleasure going through all the history and everything of gender roles throughout the world. I hope you enjoyed. Can't wait to see you next time on Crash Course World History. This is Ryan Sadighian, signing out.
Actual Ryan Sadighian here, signing out. Thank you for watching.